We're doing Parashat Vayikra, from the first Parashat of Sefer Vayikra. This shiur is dedicated, first of all, to the refuah shlema of Chaim Israel Halevi ben Batya, Shimon Natana bat Chana, and Tinok ben Devorah. Also dedicated to Ilui Nishmat Nisim Maxim ben Rachel. The Zohar explains to us that the word, or the meaning of the word korban, is not what we refer to or understand as it today. In other words, in a negative annotation to it. Korban, most people will translate as sacrifice. To sacrifice meaning you have to give something that it's important to you. And the Zohar says this is not the case at all. But on the contrary, the Zohar tells us that comes from the word
Karov.
Kuf Resh Bet, Karov, and the meaning of that, and we'll see maybe something else also. And the meaning and the purpose of that is kiruv. Kiruv is to bring things closer, whether it's the kiruv of the 10 sferot, if you want to talk about it, or the closeness that a person feels to Hashem, and to a certain aspect. I mean, we just finished today with Rosh Chodesh Nisan, with Chag HaPesach. So imagine all the Jews are going together to Jerusalem. They're bringing the Paschal lamb, in Yerushalayim, and they all sit down together. So that also brings a certain kirva, closeness with one another. So it's closeness bringing closer, and so on and so forth. It says in the Gemara, again, a statement that many times we use it, and we don't always use it appropriately, but nevertheless, we use it a lot. That statement is lefum tzara agra. In other words, the way we just translate it is the greater the reward, the greater the suffering, the greater the reward. However, the word tsar in Lashon HaGemara is not necessarily always mean suffering, but sometimes it means effort. So, regardless of what we, or to differentiate between what we refer to it today, which means suffering. Tsar is suffer, to suffer, and so on and so forth. So, that somebody asked me, I think yesterday. Yeah, yesterday morning. He asked me, well, am I wasting time learning Gemara if it's hard for me to learn Gemara? And I said to him, no, on the contrary, if you're going to continue, and you continue learning, not only are you going to succeed, but your reward is going to be harder. We've got used to immediate and instant gratification. And we are here privately gave it different names and different annotations. We're not going to get into it now. But we want everything immediately. We don't want to put any effort into everything. And, we want everything like free of hassle. And, well, things look the way they look, and it's not good. And that has to do with relationships. It has to do with the skill that you acquired. It has to do with everything. And if we don't get it quickly, we give up. I think that's one of the reasons there's such a high level of divorce today, because clashes of the titans, or clashes of the family between two aspects, the husband and the wife, it's natural to happen. But of course, depends how you escalate it, and depends what you do with it. I'll give you an example. If you want to forge a knife or forge steel, in order to make it workable, you need to bring it into a certain level of heat. Now, if you're going to make it not hot enough, you're not going to be able to shape the knife. It's going to be impossible. And if you're going to make it too hot, eventually you're going to create stress fractures inside the steel, and it's going to break. You can't do that. And then you need to cool off. Okay, but if you take the hot iron and you put it in water, it's going to cool off too much, and it's going to have cracks going all over. So you need to quench it in oil. And oil, sometimes the oil needs to be hot, and it depends on kind of a blade. Also, the oil needs to be hot, and it's not always just oil. It has to be special oil and so on and so forth. So there is this process, and then all of a sudden you work it out and you get yourself a beautiful knife and so on and so forth, and you might say it will kill, and then whatever it would do. But that's something that you need to know. But it takes a lot of effort and it's hard and so on and so forth. Well, the same thing. You need to invest the effort. You need to understand that there are going to be stress issues within the... here, take some. There are going to be some stress issues, and going to be heat, there's going to be fractures, there's going to be a lot of sweat, and there's going to be a lot of cramping of the muscles, but then you're going to get the masterpiece. But we want everything quick, and it does just not happen. Those things just don't happen. And just like many other things in life, slow is fast, fast is smooth. In other words, if you want to do something, you got to do it slow. Slow is smooth. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. That's it. So if you want to do something, you got to do it. Take your time to do it. Just keep on the pace and just do it one thing at a time. Don't lose your head. Don't get too excited. Don't get too stressed out. Just keep on doing it. But we need to understand that as well when it comes to avodah ruchanit, to spiritual aspect. And that's what this parasha comes to tell us all the time. In other words, the term korban is as such that in his action bring things closer to one another. But is just bringing things closer enough? If I just bring a korban, is that enough? When I'm bringing a korban, whether it's in bringing a korban to Beit HaMikdash, or in life, when I want to do that action, right? Is that enough, just me doing that? And the answer is absolutely not. I need to have a special kavanah. Kavanah is an intent to do it. So the kavanah, that intent has to be somewhat of sincere and special effort towards reaching that goal. I mean, in other words, you have to go out of your way to do what needs to be done, and it needs to be shown that you're going out of the way. And it's like when you have an argument, say a fight with your missus, right? And you just say, I'm sorry, I messed up. That's not going to be good enough. By the way, I want to make you a whole shiur about how bad it is to say, I'm sorry, or I just messed up, and move on like nothing ever happened. But, maybe that will wait for a different time. So we said before, for example, we said before many times, Aseh lecha rav ukne lecha chaver. So, aseh lecha rav, ukne lecha chaver. You have to make it. In order to make something, you have to put an effort. And to acquire yourself a friend, it means that in order for true friendship, you'll have to pay. There's something, and I'm not just talking about gifts, you'll have to give something from yourself. You have to invest, you have to take an effort, and therefore anything that is important, that has a meaning, it's not going to be something that you're going to get for free. Anything that is going to be meaningful is going to come through hard labor, through effort. Right? So if you're going to take the words lefum tzara agra, and we say that let's change the term of suffering into the terms of effort, all of a sudden we understand what does it mean, that actually HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he gave quote unquote the klala to Adam and Chava, he actually gave them a bracha. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do Chas v'shalom anything bad, it's only good. And what did he say to Chava? Betzar tildi banim. And that effort of you laboring over labor of grieving your kid, that's going to make you as a mother appreciate your kids more. Hopefully. But that's the whole thing. In Gan Eden, we had everything free, everything was easy. Like, okay, so who cares? That's why it's good to go to work. It's good to make an effort. I mean, you have to. Otherwise, easy come, easy go. Or as they say, Lashon ha'alacha, kem bol'o kach polto. The way it comes in, the way it comes out. Came effortlessly, leaves your hand effortlessly. You got to toil over it. You got to work hard over it. It's crazy to me that people want to get smicha in forget about a year, like 6 months. They want to be rabbis. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like this. Or they want to become a rabbi while they're doing 50 other things. It doesn't work like that. You need to put a special effort to become one. You need to sit down. You need to work on it. On and on and on and on. The list goes on. And we need to understand. We need to accept upon ourselves willingly the opportunity for us to work hard, to toil, to work hard. Because only when you work hard, you know that it's actually going to be yours. It's yours. You earn it. As they said, that was forged in fire. Into you. It molds into you. You would not yourself let it go. That's why I'm very big. And sometimes you think I'm a pain in the neck and tell you, guys, where are you? Why don't you come inside like this? Because if you don't pay attention to coming to learn, if you don't make an effort of coming to learn, you're not going to learn anything. You need to be able to give up certain things and to come here and to toil on your work, on learning. Then you'll be able to give it, to hand something to your kids. Or your grandkids. One of the happiest moments that happened to me in my life is that my grandson was so excited to make chavruta with me. He's in first grade now. So I said to him, you want to be my chavruta? He said, you mean chavrusa? Because he goes to an Ashki school. I said, yeah, chavrusa, whatever you want to call it. So he said, you mean like a real one? I said, yeah, of course, Eitan, the real one. So he said, you mean like we're going to teach each other? I said, yes, of course. He was so thrilled. I was even more thrilled than him. By the way, we're talking about Eitan, so shout out to Eitan Grossman in Israel. Eitan, we miss you, buddy. You need to come back home.
All the way.
Come whatever you are, just come. Come as you are. So the question is, what is it that we're going to feel through that process of working hard, of making that effort? Are we going to feel suffering and difficulty, or are we going to connect to joy? And that's what it is with many people. People don't want to do certain things because it's like calling me out of my comfort zone. Man, I don't want to get up in the morning and do what I need to do. I want to roll over and just take a little nap for like 5 more minutes. It ends up to be like 2 more hours. And then you're becoming fatter and fatter throughout the days instead of getting up in the morning, do what you need to do. And say, what do you mean? Thank God I'm alive to wake up again. I want to wake up. I got a whole day of work ahead of me. I don't want to sleep in bed. Look what people made for themselves. Look at all those Jackos and the David Goggins of the world, what they made of themselves in a physical realm. And look what our Lahavdil Gedoli made themselves. They didn't, I don't think Rabbi Vadia would roll over and say, 5 more minutes. He would not do that. And that's by the way what the Shulchan Aruch starts right away. It starts with something fantastic. We know that the words of Rabbi Yehuda ben Teimah, right? ואומר רבי יהודה בן תינה עובר, ועז כנמר, ורץ לצבי, וקל כנשר, וגיבור כארי. Okay, comes the Shulchan Aruch. In other words, he says, be mighty as a tiger, be light and agile as an eagle, and run fast as a deer, but be a hero like a lion. Comes the Shulchan Aruch, reverse the order. The Shulchan Aruch says, itgaber ka'ari. Why did it say? Why did you change it? Why the Shulchan Aruch changes? Because all the other qualities that Rabbi Yehuda ben Teimah says, these are qualities that a person inherits, he was born with. To be mighty, to be quick. For example, if a person has quick feet, he can run for the Olympics. I can try as much as I want, I can never make it to the Olympics. So that's something that you were born with. However, gvura, heroism, it's something that you bring from yourself when you decide to become one. So the way for Avodat Hashem has to be through gvura, through heroism. You have to pull up yourself together and say, buddy, get up. Be a hero. Overcome your yetzer until you go to sleep. That's what the Shulchan Aruch starts like that. So how are we going to feel? Are we going to feel like this or what? So it says in the Pasuk, it says, Vayikra el Moshe. Of course, who Vayikra el Moshe? Hashem. Because this parasha is really connected to last week's parasha. When he talked to him between the Kruvim. Vayikra el Moshe vaydaber Hashem elav me'oel moed lemor. And that he says, Daber el bnei Israel va'amarta alehem. Speak to Am Yisrael and said to him the following. Adam ki yakriv mikem korban leHashem. Pay attention to the word mikem. Min ha'behema, min ha'bakar, min ha'tzon takrivu et korbanchem. So the Mefarshim already announced it and pay attention to it many times on the problematic position of the words mikem at the beginning of our parasha. So the Ibn Ezra had three different avenues to go about it. So the first one, mikem, means meuchar, something late. And this is like what it says, Adam mikem ki arbin korban, v'kamou rabim. A person will bring korban, and so are many people. And also, yeh mikem mimamomchem. In other words, from you, from your own money. Or yeh mikem remez lo'otzi et hagazul. In other words, it's going to be mikem, a hint to take away something that was stolen or something that was taken inappropriately. Therefore, it's not yours, because the pasuk says soneh gezel be'olah. In other words, in Sefer Yeshaya, Isaiah 61 verse 8, it says that Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want your sacrifice, that it comes from something that is gezel, something that was not yours, that you not honestly earned. But in terms of the meaning, it doesn't really refer to this poal of what we're referring to, but really refers to the word Adam. It refers to, because the pasuk says, "Vayikra mikem Adam ki yakrim," so mikem goes to Adam, and therefore the word has to be right after it, like he would say, "Adam mikem ki yakriv korban leHashem." That makes more sense grammatically. So the Ibn Ezra claims that this is the way the Torah usually speaks, and it says v'kamou karabim and so on and so forth. This is what the Ramban says as well, and he said, and according shiur hakatuv hazeh Adam mikem, what it says, Adam mikem ki yakriv min habeimah, and so on and so forth. So that's what he refers to. So those two possibilities, and excellent possibilities, in the words of Rabbi Ibn Ezra, are very similar to one to another, because according to them, both words, the words mikem refers to the poal yakriv, refers to the actual action of the korban, of bringing about the korban, which is right in proximity. But in terms of the meaning, it completely. According to the first one, mikem refers to the obligation that the korban has to be in the financial possession of the person who brings it about. In other words, he needs to own it. And according to the other one, there is a remez lo'otzi et hagazul, right, to remove something that was stolen, that was taken. And the Rabbi Ovadia Sforno also explains the word mikem as a reference to the poal yakriv, which is right next to it, but in a completely different meaning whatsoever. And he wrote the following: Adam ki yakriv mikem, ki yakriv me'atzmechem. He should bring it from you. Bevidui dvarim ve'achnaa. In other words, it has to come from within you. And what? Divrei vidui ve'achnaa. In other words, says, I'm sorry, and you have to really be sincere about it. You kind of have to submit yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and really mean, have some meaning behind it. As it says, Uneshalma parim sefatenu, in Hosea 14 verse 3. Uneshalma parim sefatenu. In other words, we shall pay bulls with our lips, right? In other words, you have to say it, Chadati, Aviti, Pashati, and so on and so forth. As they say also in Sefer Tehillim
75.
No, 52, 51.
51, very good. Verse
12.
19, what did it say? Zivchei Elokim Ruach Nishbara. Very good, Idan. Very good. By the way, thank you for the chulad, Idan. So Zivchei Elokim, the sacrifice of Hashem is first of all a Ruach Nishbara. In other words, don't be arrogant. Humble yourself when you come to Hashem. That's the best type of sacrifice you can bring. Of course, those interpretations of Sukkim gives us a very unique and different perspective about the whole issue of korbanot that we have today. Not that we cannot, in a way, bring actual bulls and rams and so on and so forth, but it still gives us an opportunity to give just as good of a korban in a different way, which is reshaping ourselves. And he says, Ki en chefes beksilim hamakrivim bilti achnaa kodemet. So the Sforno writes, God does not need those fools who bring sacrifice without proper submission to Hashem. וכבר אמרו חז"ל מכם, from you, ולא כולכם, not all of you. And that was to do what? להוציא את המומר. Mumar is, what is a mumar in English?
Heretic?
A heretic. Right? As it says in the Safran Yerushalmi Shkalim Aleph Daled, it says, and therefore, according to the Sfono, the words mikem is really come to indicate to us that the sacrifice that we need to bring has to be an action with a very deep internal meaning. It has to come from within. Therefore, if you say you're sorry, don't come to a guy and say, by the way, how you doing? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That doesn't work like that. That paying lip service. What do you mean I'm sorry? You have to really mean it. You have to understand what you did, and you have to ask yourself, what have I done? And how could I do it to my friend? And I'm really I'm coming to you completely devastated that I could bring such an action for myself. How could I have done such a thing? What has gone wrong with me? Whether it's your friend, or whether it's between you and God, or anything like that. It has to be internal. It's first of all internal. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not take something away from us without leaving something that is just as good with us. So he took the bulls, but the real thing he left. So the bulls are not important because that's what happened in Beit HaMikdash. When we had the temple, people will do chataim, they will cheat one another, and who knows what they would do. Okay, you know what, what's the big deal? So I stole from you. Okay, this guy went with the Neshadish. Okay, no big deal. Now bring korban. Bring korban. Let's make a heavenly shish kebab. It's all going to be good. Don't worry about it. The korban will do it all. Kadosh Baruch Hu said, you fools, that's not going to do it. So guess what? You don't understand? Fine. I'll take Beit HaMikdash from you. Now you're going to live with the real thing, which is the meaning is behind it. And then when you sincerely do it, it's like you broke korban. Mamash. That's the whole kavanah of the korban. Without getting into it, that it could have been you and not the korban and so on and so forth. But it's the whole intent of bringing the korban is first of all to make you realize that you did something, and when you do something wrong, you gotta pay. But even more so, you need to understand, you have to say, you really have to change yourself inside. It's not just saying, I'm sorry, and then become a minister in a government. I don't care how big your kippah is. I don't care what yeshiva you learn. If you're a thief, you're a thief. Period. End. Done story. I don't care. Saying I'm sorry, saying I'm not sorry, that's it. You're not fit. I don't care. Now it doesn't make a difference if it's in Israel or it's in Tokyo or it's in America. Take it upon yourself, and move on. Sit with shame the rest of your life, and then that's it. So it's not enough just the external action of bringing the korban, because it says to us, "And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants biksilim." He doesn't want those fools who just come in without the proper submission. So therefore, the sacrifice has to be from what you have to bring. It has to bring from yourself, your own self, mikem, internally, from your heart. You have to bring the spark from your neshama, inside of you. From your, what we call your pnimiyut, from the internal part of you. And that action of sacrifice has to really teach us and show us that you really had transformed yourself from a person that is capable of doing such things to a person who really saw it and understood that what he did is wrong. And by the way, that's why politics is so horrific. Because with politics, when you become a politician, you're like an idol worshiper, and you're worshiping yourself. So therefore, everything is okay, everything is good. I'm sorry to say that. I don't think that religion has any room in politics. Even in the time of Beit HaMikdash, we had the Nasi, we had the Kohen Gadol, one would take care of this, and one would take care of that. But you can't be both. When we start to have both, the Kohen Gadol is also a foreign minister, and then everything fell apart. And that's what it needs to do. That's why we have it so many times. the whole issue, and we have a whole entire month to allow us to do this, which is Elul, then we come to Rosh Hashanah, and hopefully you'll become a new person. It's not making a new resolution. I promise I would not do this anymore. Why those resolutions don't hold? Because, you just pay a lip service. You say, okay, machalti kidvarecha. But you have to really mean it. You have to live with the we are not allowed to tell a Baal Tshuva. We are not allowed to tell a Baal Tshuva. No, so what caused you to become a Baal Tshuva? You're in your business. But the Baal Tshuva himself, if he's a true Baal Tshuva, remembers all his life, all the things that it is. You don't need to remind him. You have your own sack of problems, a whole bag of worms that you carry on your back. Don't look at somebody else. You need to remember yourself. He said, how could I have done such a thing? What I was thinking. And that's the transformation that we are talking about. A person has to confess on what he did, and again, submit yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And according to this explanation, of the pasuk, the Sforno also brings us the depth of the drasha of Chazal when they use the words mikem, from you, which is miut. Mikem, lemaet, is to reduce it. Mikem velo mikulchem, from you, but not from all of you. And the kavanah is leotzi et hamumar, to remove the heretic out. Why to remove the heretic out? Because by him, the purpose of bringing the korban is only external. It's only external. It's like those people who, do a yortzeit to a father or to a mother that passed away, right? And they don't really care about it. They just don't want to say that nobody will say something. So meanwhile, they themselves, I don't know what they do during this time. They don't really care. Or during the year when the parents die, or from then when the parents die, they never thought to change themselves because now your parent is gone, and maybe you should fix yourself, or you should do something that somebody will say, oh man, זה הילד של so and so, or this is the ילדה של so, איזה יופי, what a beautiful person, look what the parents did. You don't care, you live over yourself. So therefore there's no korva, no korva, and no kirva. You don't bring anything and you don't come closer. That's why you drift away from your parents. And as much as you drift away from your parents, your kids will drift away from you. If your kids will see how much you care about your parents, they will see an example of how much they need to care about you. You don't need to control your kids like this. You need to show them an example. And we need to understand that. So to that action of the Mumar, we says, of course, En chafetz b'ksili o makrivim. He doesn't want those fools to bring the korban. Again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not like shawarma. We might like shawarma, or kebab, or whatever. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not interested in that. He's interested in your heart. What goes inside your heart, how pure your heart is. So therefore the Zohar explains that people make an effort because usually they want to get it received. They want to get something in return. If I'm not going to get it in return, I'm not going to do it. And that is begeder ahava shetluya badavar. That's love that is dependent on something. You remove that something, that subject, gone, the love is gone. So that's one way to do so. But a person who is really a chacham, he would do things because that's what Kadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do. So that's what I do. He gave me the zchut to do so. So, in order for us to really be able to get all the things that eventually that are waiting for us, which is the good luck and the shefa and the bracha, that will come from the good source. Because again, I'll tell you something. There is a lot of shefa that could come chas v'shalom from the other source, from impure sources. In other words, there's a person who goes in, for example, who makes money and he makes an effort and he works hard and he saves his money and so on and so forth. And he will, he will buy buildings and he will make money in an honest way. And then you can have a person like, some cartel manager that is going to make millions and so on and so forth, but in a way that's going to kill people. So both of them are rich. But one came from hard work and good way and the other one comes from a bad way. So don't connect yourself right away to shefa. You need to make sure that the shefa, the abundance, comes from a good place. So how do you connect to that? How do you connect to something like that? How are you able to connect yourself to the higher realms of existence, in terms of spirituality, to the upper worlds, and to actually be a binding factor that puts it together? There has to be a way to do it. I mean, so you can take, for example, you can make I don't know, talking about knives before. Let's say, you know what a billet is? So you take, a billet is like a block of metal. So if I'm going to take different steels, I want to make, let's say, a Damascus pattern, or I want to make like a samurai, I forgot how they call it. There's a way that they take the metal and they actually split it and they put soft metal on the outside and hard metal, sanmai I think it's called. They put hard metal on the inside.
Hot cut.
It's called, there's the Japanese name, I think it's sanmai. So when they do it like that, right? So you need to actually make sure to weld it together. You need to be able to hold all this thing together in order to make a nice pattern, in order to make something that is worthy to work. So how exactly am I doing? What is my welding material that holds the whole thing together to make something that is actually beautiful? What is that? So we have to, first of all, in order to do so, we need to make sure that we connect our emotions to a proper kavana and awareness of simcha, of happiness, joy, love, giving, mercy, compassion, and kindness, etc., etc., etc. And so on and so forth, all these midot. So whatever you do something, let it come from a place of joy. When you do something, make it come from a place of love. When somebody asks you to do something, to daven for somebody, come from a place of compassion and kindness, or chesed. What's the big deal to daven for something? Well, what's the big deal? But don't ask to somebody to daven for you, for somebody that you know, while you are busy doing your work. What happened to that? How do you want me to elevate myself when you yourself don't care? So you have to be a real kavanah, a real intent. And what am I connecting? I'm connecting my kavanah that I want to help you to the kavanah that you want to be helped. So therefore we forge it together. That, otherwise there's nothing for me to connect to. So when we do something, whether it's mitzvah or even going to work, who in the world likes to go to work? I don't know, my mother likes to go to work. But my mother can hardly see it, she's still working. There are people like this.
Depends on the job, right?
Yeah, if you like what you do. But most people, who wants to go to work? Everybody wants to go on vacation, do something, relax and so on and so on. But when you get up in the morning to work, whatever your job will be, you have to come from a place of joy. Then all of a sudden, your work has meaning to it. You have to, and that joy is what connects your work to makom shefa. So you want bracha in your business? Well, first of all, you got to be honest. That's a dirty word. Honest. Everybody thinks if they don't cheat at work, they're not going to make money. You're such a fool. You don't understand. Even if you make money, as I explained to you before, your money comes from an impure source. There's nothing to do about it. But when you're coming from a place of joy, that connects you to the shefa. The abundance comes because you're happy to do it. You get up in the morning. It's not a burden for you to put tefillin. You get up in the morning. You can't wait to put tefillin on. You can't wait to come to daven, to say bracha, Baruch Ata Hashem. And these are things that we need to understand. And the same thing goes to clean for Pesach. Don't look for some cleaning service from Timbuktu to come in and clean your house. Roll your sleeves, get on your knees, and then scrub. Come on, start scrubbing. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. Why? It's too much for you to clean, or you are too good to clean your own mess. You're not cleaning the mess. You're cleaning for Pesach, for the mitzvah. And that attitude will come to your children. When you're going to ask your child to put tefillin on, say, that's too much for me. Can somebody else put it for me? I'll make a shaliach. Don't we say, shlicho shel adam kamot? Oh, he'll put tefillin for me. And then you're gonna run into it with your head on the wall. But it's all why? Because you decided to bring some crew service to clean your house instead of yourself. Show yourself and show your children your itlahavut in asiyat mitzvot, of doing the mitzvah. Don't ask for somebody to come learn from me. Get yourself down to the Bet Medrash and learn. And that's how we connect to this world. That's how we do this. So when we do that, the pe'ula itself, that action itself, is connected with the proper kavana. When we connect the action with the proper kavana. So therefore, at that moment, the shefa, the abundance, start coming, trickling down, and from above all the way down to us, from a pure place. Mimekor brachot. Now you should know that the word korban also, we says karov, also means shon krav, battle. Okay? And to teach us that we need to fight and to really conduct a battle on what is really important and what we really know it's important in our life. There's certain things you should not give on. There's going to be a battle. When it's going to be limud Torah, you have to fight a battle. Whether it's your wife, whether it's your cousin, whether it's your grandfather's birthday or your grandmother's brit milah. I don't care what it is. You're coming to learn Torah, that's what it is. You're coming to do chesed, that's what it is. For everything that is important. Don't sacrifice, for example, your time with your wife and kids to go watch the Knick game or Nets game or whatever it is. That's why you got to run, you have to fight and have a battle against. So especially when you're doing for other people, it has to come from a place of knowing and a place of awareness to be able to mitzaref all the sferot together, so the flow is going to be constant and pure, and to really be able to connect the physical world with the spiritual world to the words of abundance, and then the abundance is going to come. And that's very understood, that there's not going to be a difference, because every physical action that you do is connected to something spiritual, and it's connected with the proper attitude. Then it comes down. The Ari tells us that the initial reward that we get is already received. We already received by actually having the battle on defining who we are. When you sit down and define who you are, said, no, I am a Jew, therefore I'm going to have a beard, and I don't care if it's stylish or not stylish, I'm going to have a Jewish beard, I'm going to have peot, I'm going to have whatever it is. I'm defining who I am, regardless of what the world would think of me outside. And don't tell me that I cannot become a successful businessman or having a beard. That's nonsense. That's your insecurity talking. And by the way, your insecurity comes from one place and one place only. Your insecurity comes from a place to try to appease everybody else instead of appeasing Hashem. You should know that and remember that. So if we're going to do what we need to do from a place of joy in order to bring light to our lives, therefore your success is guaranteed, because it says, Ki tetzeh lamilchama al oivecha, right? If you're going to go on a war on your enemy, unetano Hashem elokecha beyadcha. If you're going to a war on your enemy, Hashem is going to guarantee you success. So if Hashem guarantees success, why are you doubting? What's your problem? And the pasuk does not say nilchamta. It doesn't say you would fight. It says ki tetzeh. Only you should go to the war. Hashem is going to give you guaranteed for success. And just by going out, unetano Hashem beyadcha. Hashem is going to give it in your hand. And this is the whole essence of korban. Bringing everything together to one place of unity, that it's all one thing. When there's no difference between the spiritual aspects of our life and the physical aspects of our life. When we go to business with the same sincerity as we daven to Hashem, and the other way around. It's all the same thing, all to bring everything together. That's the secret of success. That's how you're going to be able to bring the korban, because you bring in everything together. You're molding it into this beautiful thing that is now one beautiful unit. And this is in a way the secret of Sefer Vayikra, that really includes all the opportunities. And Sefer Vayikra is really, if you read it appropriately, it would include all the formulas and all the opportunities of the proper connections and the proper intents that would along your actions, whatever actions that you would do, how to appropriately connect it to spiritual, to physical, and that you'll be not only granted with great life, but also with meaningful life. Shabbat Shalom.